Some gifts are not acts of kindness. They are spiritual contracts disguised in wrapping paper. You thought it was generosity, but what if it was access? What if the very thing you accepted opened the door you never meant to unlock? Tonight, hidden truths are being exposed, and you are about to see what most people never discern until it is too late. There is a type of person who never gives randomly. They give strategically. Their smile is warm. Their words are smooth. Their timing feels perfect. But their intention is calculated. This person studies you before they ever place anything in your hands. They observe your weaknesses. They listen to your frustrations. They note what you lack. They memorize what you crave. Then they appear with the exact solution. A thoughtful gift, a timely blessing, a just because gesture. And you feel seen. But what you don't realize is that access has just been granted. Because some gifts are not generosity. They are positioning. The flattering giver uses gifts to bypass boundaries. They know most people lower their guard when they feel appreciated. Gratitude disarms discernment. And once you feel indebted, they begin to shift the atmosphere around you. They start asking for small favors, small information, small compromises. Nothing obvious, nothing dramatic, just enough to create subtle influence. This is how manipulation begins. Not with control, with kindness. You must understand this clearly. Spiritual compromise rarely begins with confrontation. It begins with comfort. This type of giver makes you feel special, chosen, elevated. They amplify your ego. You deserve this, you're different from others. I felt led to bless you. But behind those words is a silent transaction. Because once you accept repeatedly, you begin to feel obligation. And obligation weakens authority. You start hesitating to say no. You start tolerating things you normally would reject. You start excusing red flags. Why? Because you remember the gifts. And here is the deeper revelation. Some people give not to bless you, but to bind you emotionally. Every gift creates a psychological tether. The more you receive, the harder it becomes to detach. They know this, and they exploit it. They may begin to speak into your decisions. They may subtly influence your relationships. They may plant doubt about people who protect you. Are you sure they care about you like I do? I've done so much for you. Now the gifts become leverage, and you are in a web, not because you are weak, but because you did not discern motive. You must ask yourself something powerful. Does this person respect your boundaries even after giving? Or do they expect access? Do they give quietly and disappear? Or do they remind you of what they've done? The flattering giver always circles back to the gift. Always. They use it as emotional currency. And if you attempt to pull away, they react. They may guilt you. They may shame you. They may expose their anger. Their investment is being threatened. You must understand something critical. True generosity does not demand loyalty. True kindness does not require submission. True blessing does not pressure your spirit. If the gift feels heavy after you accept it, pay attention. If you feel obligated rather than grateful, pay attention. If your peace shifts subtly after interaction with them, pay attention. Discernment is not suspicion, it is awareness. You are not called to reject every gift. You are called to test the spirit behind it. Ask yourself, why now? Why me? Why repeatedly? Is there an agenda for me? Because when someone uses gifts to gain emotional control, they are positioning themselves as a gatekeeper in your life. And you must never allow someone to buy influence over your destiny. This is where spiritual authority activates. You must learn to say, I appreciate the gesture, but I do not owe you access. That sentence protects your future. You are not ungrateful for guarding your boundaries. You are wise. And if someone withdraws their kindness the moment you assert yourself, you have your answer. Remember this, the right people give and release. The wrong people give and monitor. The right people bless and disappear. The wrong people bless and hover. Discern the difference. Because the flattering giver is dangerous, not because they give, but because they give with expectation. And expectation becomes control. You were not created to be controlled. You were not called to be emotionally purchased. You are not designed to be manipulated through generosity. Stand firm. Receive wisely. And never trade your authority for appreciation. There is another type. They do not flatter you. They invest in you. Quietly, repeatedly, strategically. At first it feels safe. They help when you are struggling. They support when you are vulnerable. They show up when others disappear. You begin to trust them. But this giver is not sowing kindness. They are building leverage. They never say it out loud, but they keep a record. Every favor, every payment, every opportunity they open for you. They are documenting your dependency. And when the time is right, they collect. The resentful giver gives in abundance but carries silent expectation. They never truly release what they give. It remains attached to you, hovering, waiting. At first they seem generous, then slowly the tone shifts. You wouldn't even be here without me. Remember who helped you when no one else did. Don't forget what I've done. This is not gratitude. This is control through indebtedness. The trap is subtle. You begin to feel like you owe them your loyalty, your agreement, your silence. Even when they are wrong, you hesitate to confront them. You hesitate to disagree. Because deep inside you feel morally obligated. And obligation can silence your discernment. This is how emotional bondage forms. Not through fear, through guilt. The resentful giver thrives on this. They give when you are weakest, when you need assistance the most, and that is when emotional contracts are formed. You think you are receiving help, but what you are receiving is invisible debt, and invisible debt is powerful because it lives in your conscience. You begin adjusting your behavior to avoid disappointing them. You allow them influence in decisions that do not belong to them. You compromise your standards to maintain peace. You begin shrinking. This is not partnership. This is psychological positioning. And here is what makes it more dangerous. They may never explode publicly. They may never openly threaten you. Instead, they withdraw affection. They withdraw support. They withdraw validation. And you feel the shift. You feel tension. You feel pressure to comply again. Because you do not want to lose the one who helped you. But hear this clearly. If someone's kindness turns into a weapon the moment you disagree, it was never kindness. It was investment. True generosity does not keep score. True support does not manipulate. True blessing does not demand repayment in loyalty. You must examine something carefully. When you think about this person, do you feel peace? Or do you feel pressure? Do you feel free? Or do you feel monitored? The resentful giver will often position themselves as your rescuer. They enjoy being needed. They enjoy being the solution because dependency gives them control. But the moment you grow independent, they feel threatened. And that is when resentment surfaces. They may criticize you subtly. They may question your decisions. They may remind you of your past weakness. Why? Because your growth removes their leverage. And leverage is what they were building all along. You must break this cycle. Gratitude does not require submission. Appreciation does not require silence. Respect does not require surrendering your authority. If someone uses what they gave you to shame you later, you must detach. If someone reminds you of their generosity to control your behavior, you must establish boundaries. And here is the spiritual principle you must understand. When you accept help, it should empower you, not enslave you. If a gift becomes a chain, it was never meant for you. Release the guilt. Release the emotional contract. Release the pressure to repay loyalty with obedience. You can say thank you without surrendering your voice. You can honor support without surrendering your discernment. And if walking in your independence causes them to become cold, that reveals their motive. You are not responsible for maintaining someone's ego because they helped you once. You are responsible for guarding your authority. There is a difference between being grateful and being bound. Learn it. Because the resentful giver does not attack loudly. They bind quietly. They build a case silently. They collect compliance patiently. But you are not called to be emotionally indebted to anyone. You are called to walk free. And freedom requires courage. Courage to acknowledge manipulation. The courage to confront internal guilt. The courage to say, I appreciate what you did, but I do not owe you control. That sentence breaks invisible chains. Stand firm. Honor what was good, but never allow past help to dictate your future decisions. There is a giver who waits. They do not move when you are strong. They do not approach when you are stable. They wait for disruption, for heartbreak, for financial strain, for loneliness, for confusion. They study your crisis. And when your defenses are down, they appear, not aggressively, not loudly, but strategically. They step in as the hero of your lowest moment. And when you are overwhelmed, you are not thinking clearly. Your discernment is clouded by pain. Your guard is lowered by exhaustion. You are desperate for relief, and they bring it. A financial gift, a place to stay, an unexpected opportunity, a sudden solution. You feel rescued. But crisis is the most dangerous time to form agreements, because desperation silences caution. You may accept conditions you would normally reject. You may tolerate attitudes you would normally confront. You may allow access you would normally deny. And they know this. The crisis giver thrives in chaos. They capitalize on instability. Because when someone saves you in your weakest hour, gratitude feels deeper, stronger, more binding. You start associating them with safety, with survival, with relief. And that emotional imprint is powerful. But here is the warning. If someone only shows up when you are broken, but disappears when you are whole, they are not building you. They are positioning themselves. The crisis giver often attaches themselves to your identity during pain. They become the voice guiding your decisions. They may encourage isolation from others. They didn't help you when you needed them. Where were they when you were suffering? Now they are not just a giver. They are reshaping your loyalty. In your vulnerability, you may trust them too quickly. You may confide too deeply. You may surrender authority too easily. And this is how emotional dependence forms, because trauma bonds create strong attachments. The one who helped you during collapse feels irreplaceable. But discern this carefully. Did they empower you to stand on your own? Or did they subtly reinforce your need for them? True support strengthens your independence. Manipulative support deepens your reliance. The crisis giver may gradually increase influence over your choices. They may speak into your relationships. They may guide your financial decisions. They may influence your spiritual direction. And because they saved you once, you hesitate to question them. But hear this clearly. Your lowest moment does not obligate you to lifelong submission. Your pain does not grant someone permanent authority over you. Help given in crisis does not equal ownership of your future. You must examine the pattern. Do they celebrate your recovery, or do they seem uncomfortable when you no longer need them? Do they encourage your growth, or subtly remind you how broken you were before they arrived? Some people are addicted to being the rescuer because rescuing gives them power, and power gives them control. When you start rebuilding strength, they may create new dependency. They may exaggerate risks. They may question your confidence. They may discourage bold moves. Why? Because a strong you cannot be controlled, a healed you cannot be leveraged, a stable you cannot be manipulated through urgency. This is why discernment during crisis is critical. When you are overwhelmed, pause. When you are desperate, slow down. When someone offers immediate rescue, ask questions. Is there expectation attached? Is there pressure? Is there subtle conditioning? Not every helper is harmful, but not every helper is pure. Some are opportunistic. An opportunity often disguises itself as compassion. If someone becomes deeply attached to you only when you are broken, be cautious. If their involvement increases only during your weakness, be alert. You are not required to accept every solution presented in desperation. You are not obligated to bind yourself to someone because they appeared at the right time. Timing does not equal purity. You must rebuild your life on strength, not on emotional indebtedness. When you recover, reassess. When you regain clarity, reevaluate. And if you discover that your connection to them is rooted in trauma rather than truth, detach with firmness. With calm authority, say, I am grateful for the help during that season, but I choose independence now. That statement reclaims power. You survived the crisis. You are rebuilding. And you must not allow the memory of weakness to anchor you to someone's control. You are stronger than the season that broke you, and you are not required to remain under the authority of the one who witnessed your collapse. Stand upright, heal completely, and ensure that no one uses your past pain as a doorway into your future. There is a giver who speaks in spiritual language. They do not just hand you a gift, they attach meaning to it. I was led to do this, that this was placed on my heart for you, that you don't understand, this is divine. The words sound sacred, the tone feels elevated, the moment feels significant, but not every spiritual explanation is pure. Some people wrap control in spiritual vocabulary, and that is what makes them dangerous. Because when something is framed as divine, you hesitate to question it. You fear resisting it. You fear appearing ungrateful. You fear dishonoring something sacred. And that fear silences discernment. The spiritualized giver knows this. They understand that authority increases when they claim higher backing. Now it is not just a gift, it is a mandate, not just generosity, but obedience. And when you accept it, they subtly establish spiritual influence over you. You begin associating them with guidance, with direction, with revelation. They position themselves as a spiritual gatekeeper in your life. And that is where danger begins, because influence that bypasses discernment becomes control. The spiritualized giver may begin advising you about decisions, relationships, career moves, life direction, and if you hesitate, they may respond with pressure. Be careful not to reject what is being sent to you. Don't want to block your blessing. This is bigger than you. Now fear is introduced. fear of missing out, fear of disobedience, fear of consequences. This is not empowerment. This is intimidation disguised as spirituality. True spiritual support strengthens your clarity. False spiritual positioning clouds it. If someone's gift requires unquestioned submission, pause. If someone's generosity demands spiritual loyalty, pause. If someone reacts defensively when you seek confirmation or counsel elsewhere, pause. Authority that cannot be tested is not safe authority. The spiritualized giver often thrives in environments where people are already seeking answers. If you are confused about your purpose, if you are desperate for breakthrough, if you are longing for direction, they appear and they attach themselves to your search. They may offer resources, they may fund opportunities, they may sponsor initiatives, but slowly their voice becomes central and your independent clarity weakens. You begin filtering decisions through their approval. You begin seeking their validation before moving. And without realizing it, you have surrendered your inner authority. You must understand something powerful. No gift gives someone the right to govern your conscience. No act of generosity grants ownership over your spiritual direction. If a gift feels like it comes with invisible expectations of allegiance, discern it. Because some people do not want to bless your calling. They want to control it. They want to be attached to your success, to claim influence over your growth, to shape your direction in ways that benefit them. And spiritual language is their camouflage. You must not be intimidated by sacred vocabulary. Truth withstands examination. Authenticity welcomes confirmation. Purity does not fear accountability. If someone discourages you from seeking other perspectives, if they subtly isolate you from balanced counsel, if they react strongly when you assert independence, you are witnessing control. And control is never divine. You are allowed to say, I appreciate what you gave, but I will seek confirmation. You are allowed to say, I honor the gesture, but my decisions are my responsibility. That is not rebellion, that is maturity. You were not created to surrender your discernment to someone who uses spiritual phrasing as leverage. You are given awareness, judgment, clarity. And no gift overrides that. The spiritualized giver often believes they are justified. They may even convince themselves they are right. But sincerity does not cancel manipulation. Intent does not erase impact. If their involvement begins to feel heavy, if your peace diminishes when they speak, if your confidence shrinks under their guidance, step back. Realignment is necessary. You do not need to attack. You do not need to accuse. You simply need to reclaim authority. Gratitude does not require surrender. Honor does not require submission. And spiritual language does not automatically equal spiritual alignment. Test everything. Guard your conscience. Protect your direction, because your life cannot be steered by someone who gained access through generosity. You are responsible for your path, and no gift, no matter how sacred it sounds, should ever override your discernment. You are not naive. You are awakening. You now see that not every gift is harmless. Not every giver is pure. You have authority to discern, to refuse, and to detach. You will not be emotionally purchased. You will not be spiritually controlled. Stand firm. Guard your boundaries. And walk forward in clarity, strength, and unshakable authority.